In the winter of 1967, as the United States escalated its war in Vietnam, a quiet, intense man stood before packed lecture halls and television cameras, speaking with unnerving calm about crimes committed in the name of democracy. He was not shouting, he was not performing, he was dismantling power with facts, logic, and moral clarity. His name was Noam Chomsky, and to many Americans, he was suddenly the most dangerous intellectual alive. But long before governments feared him, Noam Chomsky was a child asking uncomfortable questions. Avram Noam Chomsky was born on December 7, 1928, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, into a Jewish immigrant family shaped by language, history, and exile. His father, William Chomsky, had fled Ukraine to escape pogroms and became a respected scholar of Hebrew grammar. His mother, Elsie Simonovsky, was a teacher and political thinker. Their home was filled with books, debates, and the constant hum of ideas. Language was not merely spoken in the Chomsky household. It was studied, dissected, revered. Hebrew texts lay beside newspapers filled with news of rising fascism in Europe. Discussions about Zionism, socialism, and anti-Semitism were common dinner table topics. From an early age, Noam absorbed the sense that words shaped reality and that power often hid behind them. At the age of 10, while most children were writing about sports or adventure stories, Chomsky wrote an essay analyzing the fall of Barcelona during the Spanish Civil War. He was deeply troubled by the defeat of anarchist and socialist movements by fascist forces. This was not childish curiosity, it was moral awakening. The Great Depression and the rise of Nazism formed the background noise of his childhood. Radio broadcasts carried news of war and genocide. For Chomsky, politics was never abstract, it was personal, urgent, and ethical. He attended Central High School in Philadelphia, where he was academically gifted but socially reserved. Authority did not impress him. He trusted arguments, not titles. At 16, he enrolled at the University of Pennsylvania, unsure of his direction, but certain of one thing: he would not accept ideas simply because they were dominant. At Penn, Chomsky encountered two forces that would define his life. The first was linguistics, through his father's influence and academic exposure. The second was anarchism. He began frequenting radical bookstores and discussion groups in New York City, where he encountered libertarian socialist ideas that emphasized human freedom, cooperation, and skepticism towards centralized power. Unlike many radicals, Chomsky was not drawn to revolution by romance or rage. He was drawn by logic. He believed that any system of authority must justify itself, and if it could not, it should be dismantled. His academic path nearly ended before it began. Disillusioned with traditional scholarship, he considered dropping out entirely. What saved him was linguistics, not as it existed, but as it could be reimagined. In the early 1950s, linguistics was dominated by behaviorism, the idea that language was learned purely through imitation and reinforcement. Chomsky found this explanation absurd. Children, he observed, produce sentences they have never heard. They understand rules they were never explicitly taught. This simple observation would ignite a revolution. Chomsky proposed that the human brain is biologically wired for language, that all humans share an innate grammatical structure he would later call universal grammar. Language, he argued, was not merely a cultural invention, it was a defining feature of the human mind. The idea was radical. It challenged decades of psychological theory and struck at the heart of how humans understood themselves. In 1955, Chomsky completed his doctoral dissertation at the University of Pennsylvania. Soon after, he joined the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, an institution focused on engineering and science, not radical theory.
It was an unlikely home for a quiet revolutionary. There, in relative obscurity, Chomsky began to reshape an entire field. In 1957, he published Syntactic Structures, a slim book that detonated like an intellectual bomb. In fewer than 120 pages, Chomsky dismantled behaviorist linguistics and introduced generative grammar. The impact was immediate and profound. Linguistics was reborn overnight. Suddenly, language was no longer a collection of habits. It was a window into the human mind. By the early 1960s, Chomsky was internationally recognized as one of the most important thinkers alive. But fame did not soften him. If anything, it sharpened his sense of responsibility. As his academic influence grew, so did his political voice. The United States, he believed, was committing atrocities abroad while disguising them as benevolent intervention. The same analytical tools he used to study language, he now applied to media, propaganda, and power. This would change everything. When Noam Chomsky emerged from academic obscurity into global recognition, he did not soften his voice to fit power, he sharpened it. At MIT in the late 1950s and early 1960s, Chomsky transformed linguistics into a branch of cognitive science. His theory of generative grammar proposed that the human mind contains an innate structure that makes language possible. This was not merely an academic claim, it was a philosophical one. If humans are born with the capacity for complex, creative language, then creativity, freedom, and equality are not luxuries, they are biological facts. This idea challenged behaviorism, the dominant psychological framework of the time, which viewed humans as blank slates shaped entirely by conditioning. Chomsky rejected this mechanistic view of humanity. He argued that reducing humans to programmable machines served political purposes. It justified control. By the mid-1960s, Chomsky was considered the most influential linguist of the 20th century. His lectures drew packed audiences across Europe and the United States. His work reshaped psychology, philosophy, artificial intelligence, and education. But while academia celebrated him, the world outside was burning. The Vietnam War escalated with devastating consequences. Civilian casualties mounted, bombings intensified. Official narratives framed the war as a defense of freedom. Chomsky examined the facts and found systematic deception. In 1967, he published The Responsibility of Intellectuals, a searing essay accusing American elites of manufacturing consent for violence. He argued that intellectuals had a moral obligation to expose lies, not rationalize them. The essay made him a public enemy to many and a moral beacon to others. Chomsky did not merely write, he acted. He participated in protests, signed petitions, supported draft resistance, and risked imprisonment. He was arrested multiple times. The FBI opened a file on him. He received hate mail and death threats. Universities attempted to silence him. He continued speaking. Unlike charismatic activists, Chomsky was calm, methodical, and devastatingly precise. He dismantled arguments with evidence rather than emotion. This unnerved power more than rage ever could. As the war dragged on, Chomsky expanded his critique beyond foreign policy. He turned his attention to the media itself. Together with Edward Herman, Chomsky developed what became known as the propaganda model, later articulated in the book Manufacturing Consent. They argued that mass media in democratic societies do not function primarily as watchdogs, but as systems that filter information to serve elite interests through ownership, advertising, sourcing, flack, and ideology. The implication was radical. Freedom of the press did not guarantee freedom of thought. The book was dismissed by mainstream commentators and embraced by dissidents, journalists, and scholars worldwide. Decades later, its relevance would only deepen. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Chomsky became one of the most outspoken critics of U.S. interventions in Latin America, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. He documented support for authoritarian regimes, death squads, and economic exploitation, often using U.S. government sources to make his case. He was accused of being anti-American. Chomsky rejected the label. He insisted that holding power accountable was the highest form of patriotism. Controversy followed him relentlessly. His defense of free speech, even for views he despised, angered many. His critiques of Israeli state policies, despite his Jewish background and early Zionist upbringing, placed him at the center of fierce debates. Chomsky refused tribal loyalty.